It's so weird that. ¿Puedo recorrer? No.
Hello, Eduardo.
Hello.
Hello. You all right?
Can you hear me?
Yeah. I
Perfect.
can hear you. Okay. You all right?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Hello, Hermanos.
Hey.
Hi.
So we exceeded the JSON cap or the API.
The first day, yeah. I was expecting that. I was ready to be on guard on Sunday or Saturday, with my phone in hand to see as soon as got that alarm to proceed to fix it. But it was today. I was surprised, to be honest. I'm a little bit preoccupied because I don't know.
But isn't the limit like 10,000 or something crazy like that?
No, it has a nice expansion. So, but yeah. Anyways, I will double triple check it today in the night before we actually have a pro, because we really need to be prepared by Sunday. That will be the day where I see everybody refreshing every single page every 5 minutes just to see what happens.
I get that. I was going to ask this question in Slack, and if it's applicable, then it can be posted there as well. Do we need to leave something in the console, say on the home page, for whoever's evaluating the app, so they can actually see the data that they can enter into the home page, be that a tracking number or a username or whatever the person decides to use to search for their parcels? Do we need to keep that available, or do you guys have something?
No. It's as the app says, it's just a viewer. So yeah, no, it's a read-only content.
But like what I mean is, like, because it's set up to return random JSON every time.
Yeah.
So obviously, if the request is not in the random sample, then it's not going to display anything, unless it's just set up to give us a sample of the total data. Then I guess it makes sense.
Yeah, exactly. And don't worry, the data, the mockup data is returning the same data types as the one from the real company. I cannot say they return the same words. Of course, that would be impossible.
Yeah, no, that
but
makes sense.
if some key value was a string and the string was based on a human name, then it returns a human name. If something was returned like a phone number, it returns a phone number. And actually, I took the time to modify it to look like a Swedish phone number, so it's as close as. In fact, each time that I switch it from the real API to the mockup, because the real one is still up, by the way, the one from the company is still up. Sometimes I don't even remember it until, for example, they see. I cannot give you a clue there, because if I mentioned detail, there is one detail that can get you. Okay, I'm on the fake one. Oh yeah, and I totally forgot, because you can browse the entire application and don't realize it until there is one specific point that you will say, okay, this part is and it only sometimes in the fake one that can say due to the randomness, it can say, okay, it shows it knows that it never breaks, but it shows something like it makes no sense.
I think I know what you're talking about.
In certain percentage of the time, the data doesn't make sense, and you say, okay, I'm on the fake one, but that never breaks, and actually it's modeled one by one to the real thing, to make it almost almost imperceptible.
Okay, cool. You've answered my question. So,
Good to
I'm happy
know.
with that.
So okay,
Sorry,
let's.
I don't understand.
Sorry, that's Google.
Yeah, I said, who has a perfect English? Like, okay, congratulations. I don't know. That's good.
Alexa, Siri, and Google have the perfect English.
So okay, we're gonna start at in 1 minute because again we never know how much people are who's gonna join in this one. But hello Julia, hello Hassan, and hello Pooja. Okay, so let's get started. Let's just give me just 1 second to organize the Excel. Yes, this is super quick. Based on the kickoff, I have the topics here. What is this one? Perfect. Yeah, what a beautiful topics. Wait, where'd it go? Ooh, what happened with my format? There you go. There you go. And I have a couple of ones that came up in the morning in the metro. Was okay. Yeah, that's a nice one. Perfect.
Are you almost done, Lucas?
So
With clowning, you mean? Yeah.
you look quite dark, Jeremy. By the way, thank you for.
Sorry.
You look quite dark, Jeremy. There is only a darkness. Like I know that it's already at night, but I can feel in your screen like it's like you are 3 hours more dark than the rest. There you
Yeah.
go.
I mean, the darkness has always been surrounding me, so it's really no surprise. Yeah.
I think it's just the Frenchman and Jeremy that's trying to be romantic, turning down the lights.
Oh, yeah, definitely, definitely, yeah.
Exactly.
There it is.
Yeah, there it is.
So okay, let's gonna review real quickly the topics that we're gonna cover today. We're gonna mention a little bit about Dino, Snowpack, HTML web components. We mentioned yesterday WebAssembly, so we're probably gonna go quickly to this one. This one actually was a future technology. I actually made a mistake. I mentioned it yesterday, but it's okay. And also we close with concurrency in React. So this one may be shorter because we have less topics than yesterday, but we can use the extra time to discuss anything that is facing. But in any case, let's go with the first one, Dino. Let me close this one. Let's go with Dino Land. So we already mentioned it a couple of times before, but we're gonna go a little bit in depth. What is Dino? It's quite simple. From the very same creator of Node.js, I don't remember the name, but you can Google that. Dino is a runtime, is a JavaScript runtime environment. Is built using TypeScript and Rust. What is Rust? Rust is a web language. No, sorry, it's a language developed by Mozilla Foundation. Let me actually show you. Yeah, I love that how one topic actually expands to another because we have all the time in the world. So let's go with Rust. And this language. Oh, this is a new web page. The previous one was quite ugly. This one is decent. For a developer website, this is actually pretty. But anyways, we're in Rust because we need to explain how Dino is built behind the scenes. What is Rust? Rust is a low-level language. It's designed basically with this following mission in mind. We know that C and C and C++ are lower-level languages, and nobody discusses that when you want a performance, you need to use these ones. We know that they don't handhold you. We know that they don't have a garbage collector. Like this basically, if we didn't cover this in Foreign Foundation, this will be our bad. Everybody knows that C is harder than Java, But what could be the biggest issue that makes C harder, and is memory management. You don't have the concept of garbage collector. So basically, if you create a variable, example, if you create an array and start pushing elements to the infinity, and you never clean up your variables, you will run out of memory at one point. Java with the garbage collector will take care of checking when this variable doesn't have a reference to anything else, and it will give you I will clean the memory at the cost of decreased performance. But anyways, what if somebody designed C or C++ for the modern era, and the result is basically Rust? It doesn't have a garbage collector because it doesn't need it, but it actually allows you to visualize when the variables are used or not used in scope, and that allows you to get like the benefits of both worlds. It's not as easy to use as a garbage language like with garbage collector like Java, but it's not basically you're on your own like in C and C++. So you will get help from the IDE that is perfectly set up to use Rust to develop. So Mozilla is actually changing his own browser, Firefox, for behind the scenes to be code in Rust. So what has to be with our topics for today is that the development for Node, after Node became popular, it was impossible to handle the project alone, and it became the Node Foundation. And he actually quit for the foundation one time because the decision power was shifted from him to an entire committee. He came back later because he actually knew that quitting was not a solution. You need to actually keep in support for Node for a long time, because this is a crucial technology for the web. We cannot just close Node.js and hope for the better. So he actually decided to come back, but also decided to say, you know what, I really believe that with all my experience in more than 10 years in using Node, I can build a better version, and Dino is the better version. Not only has a behind the scenes uses Rust, as it's mentioned here, so for better performance in the lower level language, and also on the surface it uses TypeScript, like it's coded in TypeScript, and allows you to actually, and this is something cool that Dino allows you to do in that Node doesn't allow you, is to actually, you can write a TypeScript code in the terminal, run a command like that, and Dino will understand it, because Dino doesn't need to compile your TypeScript into JavaScript. He actually understands TypeScript out of the box. So imagine writing a project in TypeScript and for something that will run in the backend, and you will never need to compile it, because if you know that if you're using Dino instead of Node, it will understand TypeScript natively. Remember, we're not talking about a web browser, we're talking about a Node server environment. So we're talking about something like Electron that we mentioned yesterday, or a server in a web server, not a browser. The browser still doesn't understand TypeScript, and probably will never be, because TypeScript is even if it's open, I think it's open source, it's for Microsoft, and it will not be, and JavaScript is our standard in the web. So that will never happen for the browser, but for the server, where you can install whatever operating system or run whatever language that you want, Dino allows you to use TypeScript. Another advantages is that, for example, there is no package, there is no need for install a package anymore. You can just install Dino in a single command in your terminal. And this is something super cool. This is one of the new benefits that Dino allows you to do. Look at this line of code. Import whatever library you want to import, and look at this line of code. This is super interesting.
That's cool.
You don't need to install packages in your computer anymore. You can actually call it directly from the web page, and it will cache in your project folder. Of course, the first time it needs to be downloaded, but you don't need to run the npm install beforehand, because as soon as you run Dino start, it will check, do you have this library? Yes or no. Is this the latest version of the library? Yes or no. Otherwise, it will download the copy. Otherwise, it will start fast. So yeah, you can see that this is a much more syntaxes. You basically can. The intention is that, if you remember in Node you actually start two things. Node is the runtime environment, so you can run JavaScript outside the browser. That's Node. And then you have npm, Node Package Manager. That is the one that actually create this folder with that can cost 1 gigabyte, 2 gigabytes of data with all the libraries, because the problem is that each library installs his own library, and those libraries in turn also install their own libraries. So it becomes like a trio of dependencies that is quite hell, and that's why you need Webpack. And it becomes a third cycle of complexity and bureaucracy inside your code base just because you want to install libraries. So this one actually allows you to create so much less complicated code. And you can actually write a code like this in the terminal and it will work. I didn't have the time to actually do to run this one and to practice this one before the lecture started to the server capping out so fast in the first day. I didn't expect that. But I on my own time, you actually run this one, run this command when you have time, and you will be able to literally run this this demo without any issue. And look at the extension. You can run the example, and the example has an extension TS. You don't even need to install the TypeScript compiler that we mentioned on the first optional and the second optional lecture. Even if your computer is brand new from the store, you just got it from the Apple Store or for Windows or whatever place you bought the laptop. You install this command if it's a Mac. You install this command if you're in Windows, and as soon as you install that, you can run this line of TypeScript code without compiling, because Dino understands TypeScript before on their own. And you can write this. You can try this example on your own as well. Yeah, you can use basically all of this. Why I mentioned this as a feature technology instead of in other technologies, because this one is new. I think we're just in version 1.5. I followed that on Twitter. So let me go for this one, Dino. Is it Dino? Yeah, there's one. So we're in version 1.5, released like literally last week. So it's quite young. There is a possibility that maybe we never will actually dethrone Node. The reason being that Node actually, Node has more than 10 years on the market. Every company that actually has presence on a web applications built on the web is running behind Node. So the transition is harder to sell to a company that cares about a running business. But for the startups or for thinkers, as in developers that actually like to code for a job, for a hobby, not for a paycheck, looks like they're quite happy with Dino. You read a lot of positive comments here. The community is small. The community is super chill, super cool. This is something cool when the community is small. Once the community is larger, it becomes a little bit toxic. But so for now, the community is in the perfect size that it's not small enough to be insignificant. That okay, the project is not insignificant enough. It's not unimportant. It's actually all the defects of Node fixes with better performance and with native TypeScript compatibility. So the project is not important. It's super important, but the community is in a perfect size that is not small enough to be insignificant, but it's not big enough to be toxic. So it's a perfect size to actually follow them. So yeah, it's quite cool. I remember being one of the first less than 10,000 followers. So yeah, it was super cool in that sense that this community is quite cool. So if you ask a question here about that, if you're into that and you want to create your own backend server, for example, Lucas, instead of using Java, you want to switch to the dark side. But remember, you hate JavaScript, but you don't hate TypeScript. Well, Dino is a technology just for you. Congratulations. I didn't want to yet mention that this one when you mentioned it yesterday, because otherwise we're gonna have spend more than 20 more minutes speaking yesterday about other technologies, and this topic from today will become even shorter. I made the mistake with WebAssembly yesterday. I didn't want to make the same mistake twice with another technology that I wanted to mention today. And so yeah, if you're into backends, and somehow these 2 weeks of web development front end convince you that building for the web is something quite cool instead of just building for the desktop, but you still hate JavaScript, and nobody can force you to like JavaScript because JavaScript is bad. Well, Dino is just for you. You use TypeScript, you have full object-oriented abstraction, and behind the scenes has an amazing performance, because Node was built in pure JavaScript. So it's for JavaScript, built in JavaScript. So it's an infinite loop of compromise. But this one is a clean state, uses all the lower level stuff is built on Rust. It was almost like it was built for C. And then the top layer, the one that you interact every single day, is TypeScript. So you can actually have your strong typing, create abstractions, and so on and so forth. And there is a lot of resources already, so you can create your own micro frameworks. And there's a lot of support right now with this one. Let me show you Dino plugins. So there is already a third-party modules. This one, Dino Land. So for example, if you want to use Lodash, it's already port for Dino, so you don't need to install npm install. You can just use Lodash from the new import syntaxes, date management. I don't know, with spreadsheet data toolkit. So you want to make a visualization data, you have something here. Well, you can see there is a lot of the libraries right now. Even if the project is young, you have already more than 1,000 libraries. Most of them are your basic micro Express.js clone. But yeah, this is something that you should actually invest some time into that. So I know that it's a little over the surface. I would really wish to go a little bit deeper in Dino because we have the time. But backend is not my strong forte, so I will not make justice to Dino if I try to go in depth, because I will make a lot of stupid mistakes. So I will only tell you the cool new stuff, and then it will be up to you to go into deep for Dino. Of course, links will be given at the end of the lecture. And now let's move to the next one, Snowpack.
Eduardo,
yeah.
Sorry. Thanks to you, I've just bought like a course about Dino and GraphQL.
Nice.
So thanks for that. Yeah. Sorry.
No, amazing. No, that's wild. Amazing.
Yeah, really. That was like purely thanks to you. Like you inspired me like yesterday, and I decided to just.
Wow. Did I mention Dino yesterday? To be honest, because I know that we have mentioned it in the first week, but I'm
so sorry. That was maybe that was last week. Yeah.
Yeah,
passing
because
fast, so.
that's when you asked me yesterday about what to research. I really wanted to say Dino, but I didn't want. I didn't want to explain it because we were running the risk of fusing together the two topics. One that is in common practice today. That was the topics that we covered yesterday without WebAssembly. WebAssembly was a mistake. WebAssembly was for today. And that's the reason I didn't want to mention Dino yesterday. But now that you know Dino, yeah, you will be amazing stuff with Dino. I cannot guarantee you that this will become popular. I just explain why. Because Node.js maybe has the performance penalty of JavaScript, but because it's already in place, it's going to be hard to dethrone. But even if the creator of Node.js actually tells you move to Dino, is gonna be hard. But this on your CV, it will be something like it's wonderful. Like, hey, this guy actually takes web development like a backends on JavaScript. On backends on the web. Forget about JavaScript because there is no JavaScript here at all. So this guy takes a backend developer for the web seriously, because this one is no play. Your performance will be nice, because even if we yesterday mentioned that, hey, TypeScript at the end becomes JavaScript, so thus it's supposed to be slow. No, you interact on the surface with using TypeScript, but when, for example, when you need to sort an array of 1 billion items, you write a array sort in TypeScript, but that's actually only code, it will call Rust behind the scene, and Rust will take care of sorting that array using the same performance techniques that C and C++ does behind the scenes. So yeah, Dino has a performance like it's 10 times faster than normal Node.js, and it's not because TypeScript. Remember, TypeScript don't make your code faster by itself. It maybe allows you to make it faster, and we mentioned this yesterday. You may be able to optimize your code because it's easier to debug. Thus, you will make it faster by that. But it's not because the code itself is faster. It's because it's easier to debug. So Dino indeed will be faster, but not for TypeScript, but because it's built also with Rust. So it's a nice combination of. It's the same example that we used with Figma yesterday. The surface layer is built on React, but behind the scenes, all the hard work is done by WebAssembly. So yeah, Dino is a perfect solution for any backend that wants to take web development, backends on the web, for the web seriously. So now let's go to Snowpack.
Just one question about
Yeah.
Dino. So does it mean we can use Dino like instead of Node? Like for example, a React project we have right now. Can we use Dino?
Yeah, you can do it. You need to see. You need to see if React is already, if there is a wrapper for React in that one. And actually, that goes in hand with this topic. So even if I don't know if the React is compatible, in theory it should be. If somebody ported, it should be. And now let's go with the next one. That is Dino. I promise that as soon as I finish this one, your question will be almost self-answered. But so don't worry. I promise that it will make sense after this one. So what is a Snowpack? Basically, is you just saw the feature from Dino that allows you to import packages directly without npm. So I know you know what is web. Well, sorry, no WebAssembly, Webpack. What if Webpack instead? Imagine that somebody built Webpack again, and instead of using npm, it uses the new import syntaxes that we just saw a couple of seconds ago. And the solution is, yes, somebody already did it, and it's a Snowpack. So this allows you to pack your JavaScript libraries without having to use npm, because it allows you to actually import by using the. So well, ironically, you need to install you need Node to install Snowpack. But once Snowpack is installed, you can actually start bundling your projects. You can import your projects using the syntaxes of importing stuff directly. That is called, by the way, I think it's called exsys import. No, exsys URL import. Import. There you go. Import module for URL. So this is a new syntaxes proposal that Dino is already using, and even if it says 2018, trust me, stuff sometimes take time to become common wide. So Snowpack allows you to actually switch projects, and instead of using a Webpack that is super heavy and creates by default creates a super big node modules folder. This one you install it. You still use Node.js. Node.js, you need still use Node.js, but this replaces Webpack and allows you to use this new import syntaxes. So let me see an example, for example, of a recipe for Svelte, because I don't think that they don't support React yet, this one. They support JSX, but this doesn't mean that it's React. So I will open Svelte that we mentioned yesterday. And how do you install it? Let me just see the import. Let me see the example. This is the configuration. So, for example, this is a you call from Snowpack and you call this file. So you don't need to do an npm install. So you just can call a direction from the URL. Let me see if I can see the one from view. I think that the one from view I actually read it quite better, and I managed to do the example without any issues. Yes, let me see where I can do it, because this is the configurations. Let me see if I see the recipes, supported libraries, official plugins, TypeScript. So this is the configurations for Webpack. If you know Webpack, this is the configurations. But the recipes is basically the equivalent of create React app, but for each of these ones. But I don't remember what is the line of code here to do the, if you want to create a basic project from scratch, I don't see it right away. So I know that I'm not explaining this one as well as I was explaining Dino, unfortunately. Let me see how to do that. Maybe I can just literally go to the homepage and get started. So get started. I install the Snowpack like this. Okay, to create a new project, this was the one I was trying to do. The Snowpack, the dep, this is the equivalent of npm start, and this is the equivalent of npm build that we're going to see tomorrow when we build the project to Firebase. And yep, this creates, for example, npm-x creates a Snowpack app, the directory folder, the template. By the template means the ones that are here. So for example, if you want to create a Vue project or a TypeScript project or a SAS project or a Svelte project, you just tell which type of project it is, and there you go. And it will set up the entire project folder just like that. And if you want to import new libraries, you can import libraries using the external URL imports instead of trying to do another npm install. So yeah, even if this depends on Node, once on npm, once you install Snowpack, you don't need to depend on npm anymore. So this is a lighter weight alternative to Webpack. Cons, as you can see, there is no support for React yet. Thus, the heavyweight champion from front-end development is not supported yet. And until Snowpack doesn't get support for React, nobody will care for this one. But for
I think it is supported. It was down.
I saw ESX, and I see Preact.
Not on the side, on the main page where you just were. Quickly go to Get Started again.
Yeah, get started.
And if you scroll down a bit, it gives us a bunch of templates, official templates.
Library support.
Where we say, when we say create, there's a spot where we say create new Snowpack app, and then you give the app name.
Let me see.
I think we have to click on Get Started.
Get started. Okay, I click install Snowpack.
So if we scroll down a bit,
those
official app templates, React is one of them. So I think if you do create new Snowpack app, you can just choose.
Oh yes, you're right.
React,
yes, then you already can do it. Yeah, nice, perfect. Yeah.
So
to be honest, I remember checking this one. Maybe I will not say 6 months ago. It was a little bit earlier, maybe 4. It was not ready. It was not ready. This one. I will check in the blog when this one was published, because I remember that for a while the closest thing was Preact. That is a copy of React, but with a couple of performance optimizations. But the problem with Preact is that it's not the official React. So the community in this one is quite small. For that one, I will go with Svelte or Vue. So yeah, I want to see this one, and this one is quite new as well. React plus TypeScript. So yeah, this part is quite new.
I have a quick question. Does this then also sort of like give you like a dev server then?
Yeah, allows you to create. Okay. It's basically is a replacement for Webpack. So everything that Webpack does, this one does. The difference is that when you want to install packages, you don't need to do npm install. You just can call import something directly, and this one understands it. If you try to do that in Webpack, it will crash because it's not designed for that one.
That gives me another question, and I think it's applicable to Dino as well, using that syntax. How do you control the version of what you import? Because in npm we have a package JSON where you can specify the version, but in Dino and in this, if you just like sort of import directly, how do you specify the version? Oh, okay.
Yeah, but don't worry. No. The question is good.
That makes sense.
Yeah,
that makes sense. That's a cool way of doing it.
Yeah, don't worry. And I cannot even imagine, for example, have you ever pushed a package in npm?
Nope.
No worries. No, I have done only a couple of CSS libraries for testing purposes, and then I got bored and never maintained it. But basically, each time that imagine publishing a package in npm like a glorified npm Git repository, but only with a master branch. The issue is that each time that you want to push something, you need to manually increase the clock. So you would, for example, imagine that we're creating a library for the SDA. So not only the SDA platform can be used, but the students can also use this framework like it was Bootstrap or something. If we are currently on version 0.66.0 and I make a change, for example, I change the buttons from blue because blue is the color of the SDA to red, and I push, it will throw an error because it says you need to increase the counter manually. It will not auto increase by 0.76.1 because the machine doesn't understand your context. Remember that these numbers are not at random. This number, in version control, in version numbering, we have three groups of numbers. The first number is for stuff that is, for example, a bug fix or anything that doesn't break anything. This one is for minor features. So you are adding functionality, but you don't break anything existing. And major functionality is for either a total revamp that will probably break everything, or something that will change the functionality of something that will also break something. So this number is quite critical to use, and the machine doesn't know if changing the color blue from blue to red is something critical like this one, or medium importance like this one, or unimportant like this one. So there is no plugin to auto increment the numbers, because if somebody writes a plugin to auto increment the numbers, it will break the purpose of the number evasion system, because the machine doesn't know how important the changes that you just made are. So the only protection that npm has is that each time that you try to push without increasing the number, it will be blocked. So you will never have a problem that somebody might mistake push a change to the 76 version, and the next day make a breaking change and push it and forgot to notify to the users. No, npm will never allow you to push the same number twice. So as you can see in the number, this number is something that you can actually trust, because there is a security layer behind this schema, and you will be able to trust this number, that this library is always with the 76, always. So if you want to run until a particular version, you go to this. The number is right here. And notice that we are not pushing a library, we're pushing a file, but the file also has a numbering system, because now that we can import anything, we need to take this security system into account. So, but that was a nice question. For example, no worries. It's nice to cover less topics because it allows me to go more into depth. But anyways, let's open this one from React. I will not install it. But let me just read it. npm start, rules in the environment localhost. You now use the Open 8080 to test it, and then crazy bolt. Yeah, behaves almost like. 2 months ago. So it's quite new. Yeah. So yeah, the history says that this one is quite new. Yeah, that makes sense. So yeah, this package looks like this version of this recipe in particular is quite new. So that's why I didn't find it at the beginning of the SDA. I remember when I was making the super rough idea for this particular topics of web development module, I knew that I want to move Snowpack to future technologies instead of current ones, because it doesn't have React, it's useless. So let's see this one, maybe next year this one will become other technology instead of future technology. Now that I will actually, in my free time, I will try to use this one to create a React project to see how much easier it is to develop instead of in Webpack. So yeah, I will actually try to run the one that you are actually running in. You will run it using npm create React app using Webpack, but I will try to port that project, or at least the YouTube one, I will try to move the YouTube one because I actually realized after coding during this day, the code base is quite obsolete. I can improve a lot, like the browser route and so on and so forth. So if I want to rewrite everything, I can go one level deep and start by switching the entire tech stack and go from Webpack to Snowpack just to see how it goes. And if it doesn't work, I will go back to Webpack and that's it. So yeah, interesting. I didn't know that they have React ready. I will actually now will try it. So yeah, if you hate Webpack or no, it's not that you can hate Webpack. Forget about that scratch that one. But if you want to experiment with something that is more modern and doesn't need to install a lot of dependencies on each time, because this is, to be honest, it's annoying that to create a simple template for React, you can see that it takes a lot of time because it needs to install so many stuff, and that it takes like 3 minutes to install the dependencies. And you want to create a Hello World test app, it's too much for that. But using this syntax is so fast that yeah, it will be fun to develop a hobby project using Snowpack instead of Webpack. So yeah, give it a chance. It's something to experiment. And now let's move to this one. This one is quite cool. HTML web components. So let's hear about this one. It's a suite of different technologies that allows you to create reusable custom elements. Basically, this is creating components. Well, actually, the name is itself, but this is basically the native implementation of the React components. So imagine, remember, and now that we go to the Cupcake website, remember when Lucas said, how do we optimize the header, because we know that we need to copy and paste it manually, and then somebody said create an iframe, and the problem with the iframe, there is security issues. It's not worth whatever you say in development, it doesn't work with all the security issues that will cause. So imagine on the other hand that you want to install React for a small Cupcake website. Imagine that in the near future, you will be able to actually create a component header natively in HTML and just inject it without any issues. And it will have its own shadow DOM. So this is something important. It will have a better performance, because remember when we were talking about if you want to make a change you have the URL list here, and then if you want to make a change, you will need to go to the head, to the HTML, body, blah, 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 blah. Well, this one, each time that you create a web component, it will create a copy of the DOM only for this particular section. So basically, one, not all, but one of the techniques of React to optimize performance was to create a copy of the DOM and only modify the changes there. And when all the changes are done, then copy and paste the results instead of making the changes step by step, causing re-renders. So this is an optimization technique that now comes to, or is planning to come to our projects. And this is the HTML templates. This is the one that we were mentioning. We can create template syntax. This is inspired by Vue. I will not create a Vue project right now, just because the npm tag creating the project takes time. But I will create something real pseudocode just so you can get an idea. So this will be the syntaxes. Folder will be test. I just need something just to create something code. So I will create, I'm glad that the syntax looks like Vue. So when I told you that Vue was index HTML, index.vue. Yeah, you can see the green icon. This is the syntax of Vue, is template. Say template. It says that I need to install a plugin so I can see. For shame, I haven't installed Vue in this computer. Give me 1 second. Well, we can write the template without the, but anyways, the template is a wrapper, and inside here, whatever you return here, in this case, we want to create a typical header. Let's say header. You can create your code here, blah, 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 and that's it. And you can use this, imagine that you open index.html. You you imported the component as a JavaScript file because right now you cannot import a view file into HTML. Of course, that will break. But imagine if this one is a file that actually can, in an extension that HTML can understand, you can import it, and inside your body, this is because I encode faster, this is pseudo code, doesn't expect it to be real code. So H1 hello, blah, blah, blah. And then this one will be called, for example, I will not carry the index. Doesn't make sense. It will be header. There you go. Header. And then you can actually create the header just like that. Header like that. I can use a safe closing one. Header. And there you go. Well, this because web components are not ready. As soon as I save it, it corrected to lowercase because it thinks that I'm trying to imply the normal header tag, but no, I'm trying to say a web component, uppercase component. Remember. And this will work, and then you will have whatever you have here. It will come here. And let me actually create something. For example, H1, hello world, blah, blah, blah. The links that you have for your navigation website in the Cupcake website, blah, 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 UL, and then the LI. You know, LI. Well, I will not write the LI items, but you know what I'm trying to say. And it will appear here directly. It also has the option called a slot. What are the slots? Slots are super cool elements. For example, if I create a component called button, I will call it button just to avoid the autocorrect from the browser. I will call it button web component. Of course, it still will not work, by the way, but just an example. And I create, so for example, a template. View, perfect. Oh yeah, it's ready. Button, perfect. Close button, perfect. And let's say that this one has an icon. Icon. The icon is, for example, a star. Let's say this is the syntaxis. You want to use this component here in the HTML. So, for example, I will import a button. C. There you go. And I want to, and how do we pass the title for the button? You may say, can I pass as a prop so we can render the name? You can do that, and you can do that in React as well. But if you remember, Hermanos, what you actually did with the browser route, that you actually put inside the browser route, you put the component. This is called, in React, I think it's called portals, but in Vue and in the web component syntax, it's called a slot. So if you, for example, if you want to write the button, the text in the button here, here, let me just put this one on the left and this one on the right so you can see. So if you want to write a button WC, so you want to write, for example, button click me, and you want to tell the machine exactly where to put it, you basically you create something called a slot, and the name slot actually is describing whatever is inside the slot is the one that you will get between the two tags. So this is what the new syntaxes in React Rotterdam version 5.0 allows you to do. You can create the route here, and then pass a component in here. And what is happening behind the scenes is that it's putting inside this slot space. So web components will actually have a syntax is similar to the Vue one, because the syntax from React is totally different to the HTML standard at all. So there is no point into making it similar. But you can see that you will have powerful features here. And I don't know if this one will allow you to make a named slot. But for example, if you want to customize a header in Vue, you can have multiple slots and decide that, for example, for some reason you want some title here and put another item here, blah, blah, and so on, and put a name, and the machine, you pass a couple of elements, for example, in a URL list, and based on the name, the component will put it here, and it allows you to organize stuff in an amazing way. So glad to know that the future component is close to the Vue syntaxes. Yeah, and basically you can create these elements using normal JavaScript syntaxes. So for example, const button equal new button WBC, open parentheses and pass data, and you can create components on the fly. That means that you will create a custom list of HTML templates, sorry, the web components using map functions as well, because if you can create components on the fly, then you can create, use it inside of an array. So yeah, this will actually take one of the features of reusable components from a benefit for using React. And with that in mind, you will realize something, that the Cupcake website doesn't need to be done in React at all. In a small feature, making the Cupcake website natively in HTML will be so easy, because you can create the product component, the header component, and the product component, and you will not have the problem with the imports that we have on Monday, because you can pass in the slot, you can just pass the image that you want, that's it. And then inside the component, you tell them exactly how to position that image inside the component. So yeah, we're in a again, this is on purpose on future technology, because I cannot give you that date and when this will become popular. But if we actually go to something that we can actually mention, we go to, can I use it? I use it. This web page allows you to see if the technology is widespread enough to be used or not. So right now you can see this is like a Christmas tree. We don't want the multiple colors. We want everything in green. Green means it's supported. Red means not at all. So we know that Internet Explorer doesn't support it. So if you need to do compatibility with oldest version of Internet Explorer, forget about it. Edge, the old version before they switched to Chrome, doesn't support it. Safari is starting to support it right now. We are sorry, Firefox. We are in version 82. So with Firefox, you're pretty confident that you can actually use it. Safari, unfortunately, Safari is lagging behind. So Mac users are left in the dust. This is bad for us. Opera supported. So just give it a couple of years until everything starts to move. Because yellow means, let me see what it means. Partial support. Let me see what it means. Autonomous custom elements will not customize build elements. I will need to read what is the caveat, but this means that it's partial support. But in any case, you can see the transition in Chrome. We go from red to maybe to full support, and this is a standard cycle. And in Safari, we are in the middle of the cycle. We start from no support to we are starting to support. So in maybe 1 year, we're gonna see green, yellow, red, and in 2 or 3 years, we're gonna see all yellow, green, meaning that every single version is supported, and so on and so forth. This is a nice example of a future technology. So yeah, I really hope that if somebody still teaches web development by SDA 14, the Cupcake web, and use a web similar example to the Cupcake website, it will be super joyful to code using native components, and you don't need to teach a super complex syntax, because this is super easy. This is just for example, teaching about the slot concept was 1 minute of lecture on top of the concepts learned last week in HTML tags. So making this kind of dynamic websites will be so easy in the future that it will be super fun to make websites once again. So yeah, this was a component that I wanted to mention since the first day. I'm super looking forward for this one, because many websites, and I'm guilty of that one, by the way. Even let me log out. And now let me go to the SDA project. Even this project, this website was due to just for the time constraint, I built it on React. But this doesn't need to be on React. This could have been code in native web components if the support was ready. But because I knew that I would have a lot of repetitive elements. This one, by the way, if you want to know the trick about this one behind the scenes, is this element and this element are exactly the same. The only difference is I pass a variable called is left or is right. That is exactly the same trick that I use with the header bar in the YouTube project. Is light or is dark. So in this case, instead of saying is dark or is light, is left or is right. And I change the code, so I do this trick for the left, right, left, right, left, right. Yeah, so this one can be easily coded without React at all, and the performance will be perfect because it's native HTML tags. So yeah, nothing more to see. This one sells by itself. I mentioned yesterday assembly, so I will skip it. Well, because we have 10 minutes, let's go with concurrency and React. This is a future technology. You can see a red, nice warning sign telling you this is an experimental mode. Don't use it yet. But let's see, what is concurrent mode? This is super important. When they say user capabilities and network speed, something important, JavaScript is single threaded in the browser, but browsers are multi-threaded. For example, Chrome, Chrome what it does is that each tab is basically one browser window, self-contained. So we know that the browsers are running behind multi-threaded, multi-core processors from a long time ago. So React is trying to obtain that performance from the browser into React to make React work in multi-threaded environments. This will improve the performance of React. This is what is called concurrency, running at the same time. So what I'm trying to say is that this technology will allow React to render thousands of elements moving them at the same time. So what are the applications for a website? Of course, there is no benefit at all. For a chat application, even in a concurrent event, I will still not say it is a benefit, but let me see one example. Okay, imagine that for some reason you're in a stadium and the stadium has a local network and you want everybody to have an interactive experience. You don't want them to install an app for this one. You want them to run a web page. The web page even doesn't need to be run from the internet. Remember that we don't. If this is an isolated event inside a console hall or on a stadium, you can run the project from your local machines and build a web page using React, and you will be able to make everybody. And remember, a stadium has a capacity for more than 10,000 people at the same time. Imagine that they are in some kind of quiz game or a virtual game like Animal Crossing. Simple graphics because we are for the web. But imagine everybody be able to move and chat at the same time. No web application will be able to solve that one because it will cap because the JavaScript is single threaded. But if React actually managed to pull the concurrent mode, it will be multi-threaded. It will work beautiful. So yeah, this is only for ultra specific scenarios. But what I'm trying to say is that in the future, React, and regardless if I don't like the syntaxes or not, will allow to create experience for the web that we cannot even imagine. The example in the study that I just gave is something that I just come up with my mind. Remember, when the web was invented in around 95, nobody thought about e-commerce. We were thinking about sharing files and that's it. And then in the 2000s, we had in the 2000s we had e-commerce as something that, of course, the web has e-commerce. It always has been. No, that's not it. And in 2010, we have social media. And now in 2020, you say, of course, social media and the web. I cannot imagine the web without social media. I can because I live in that era. So maybe in 10 years, we'll have this kind of super mega virtual setups. People will say, of course, live concerts or something virtual reality world in the web page, inside a web page. Of course, the web always have it. No, we are in 2020 and we still don't have it. But this might be the key to unlock this kind of crazy performance stuff in React. But for this one, this is not for the final hard. You actually need to have a deep to take advantage of this. You need to have a deep computer science knowledge. I don't, to be honest, because you need to learn about parallel processing and power. Because the problem is that when you have multi-threading, you have the problem that multiple parts of the code can be accessing or mutating an index of an array. And good luck if one of the threads actually deletes an element from the array. and in the next line of code, another part of the CPU, another core from the CPU actually needs to access that one, and it will become undefined. So yeah, you really need to be careful with parallel programming, but the benefits are here. I don't want to say that with this WebAssembly will become obsolete, because I don't think that this is a competition to WebAssembly, but this will create, we don't know yet what possibilities are, but the demos that I saw about concurrent mode, where if you Google if you put in YouTube concurrent mode in React, the first demo that you will see is like looks like a sphere made of dust. You say, what? React can do 3D graphics. No, that's not concurrent mode. Or it's trying to demonstrate that each point is some piece of data, and it's manipulating and rotating the data all at the same time. And it looks like it's a 3D particles, but it's data, and it's doing it in real time in a single computer. So it's super cool running in real time in a 2D application. So yeah, performance. What we can build with this one, I don't know, but let's see what happens in the future. This is a super experimental one, and this is the perfect candidate of a future technology that has amazing potential. So many potential that I honestly cannot understand the repercussions yet. But for example, in the stadium, everybody will be able to connect to 5G. Will pull data in real time, and the experience will become amazing. Yeah, that's super cool. This sounds super amazing, but I cannot honestly think of a nice example to build on. I was more sorry, web components. This is the favorite one from this bunch, and Dino if you're in the backend. So yeah, these are the technologies that I wanted to mention in the future. I cannot imagine that they will help you in the near future to land a job. Maybe Dino, because if you actually want to say that you build a backend for the web with better performance, yes, and that's something that we can use today. So this one will be interesting. The other ones I don't still see the support yet, but it was nice to know about these topics. Well, it's time for questions. Yeah, the Neuralink, that will be a nice example that can be built on the web without any issues with the concurrent mode. Yeah. Yeah, why not? Also, imagine making tracking Bitcoin or mining or making an application that buys Bitcoin or any super heavy stuff can be done on the front end without any issues. Yeah. So yeah, you can do super crazy stuff.
Maybe something I would like your input on. Like, obviously, you've now mentioned that Apple is now going to do the whole switching everything over to ARM.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So does that mean that if you happen to be, say, a Swift developer and you were always developing for iPad and iPhone, iOS devices, now with the new compatibility layer and everything being ARM and those ecosystems sort of merging into one thing, because now you can develop for like the Mac itself and you can develop for an iOS with the same code base. Do you think that's going to maybe change a shift or create a shift in the market in terms of where people develop and what they choose to develop?
That's a nice question. Let me see what will happen in the future. For me, I don't think that, for example, starting next week, by the way, it's official that the announcement for the new Macs will be November 10, next week. I don't believe that having application iOS application in my Mac will change my experience forever, but it will increase the value of the iOS developer itself, because it will mutate from iOS developer to Swift developer, the language, and they can create more value for applications. Because, for example, there is in the graphic design world, for example, I have a Sketch for the Mac, and there is a plugin for Sketch called Sketch Mirror in the phone that allows me to test mobile devices. So if I design something for mobile on the Sketch, I can actually test it here on the phone. Instead of using Figma with a simulator of the iPhone, I actually can test it on my side. That's a feature that, literally, in my case, is something that I am willing to pay money for, and I literally do, because I buy the license for a Sketch, because testing the design on the iPhone, I honestly have sent this to I handled my phone to a client and give it to test it out. They really think there is a real website. They cannot honestly see the difference between a mockup and a website. So that's a nice feature. So I can imagine that I cannot imagine what how good the integration between Sketch and Sketch Mirror will become once the code base will become one. But honestly, I don't know that is the benefit for the developer. For me, the benefit for Apple for the transition is not to. I don't think that the end game is to make having iOS applications in the Mac. I don't think that's that. Also, I don't think that the end game is to make to port Mac applications like Final Cut into iPad. I don't think that also is not also the end game. What I believe that the end game is that if you want to build the best the best high performance applications in the planet, you need to use Apple tools because only Apple control the OS and now the chip. That's something that didn't happen until the last time that happened was, well, to be honest, I don't remember what was the last time that a major company built a CPU, the architecture of the CPU itself, and the operating system. And if you know how good the apps in iOS, regardless of I like and I use apps in iOS, you know that the reason that the iOS applications are so good is because the tools, the provider of the tool, Xcode, that is the equivalent of Visual Studio Code, but for iOS apps, it's the same that builds the phone, and it's the same that builds the operating system. Is unique. So once everything, including the CPU, is in the Mac environment is the same, I cannot imagine how good the apps will become. So again, I think that the Mac apps will become good because of the CPU, not because we'll be able to access iOS apps at all. So for me, that's the cherry on the top. But is the performance of the performance of having the manufacturer of the CPU and the manufacturer of the operating system context to be the same, will open the gate to a high quality polished apps like never seen before. So let's see how it pans out in 3 years. I hope that they show some case of killer app in next week, because if the performance is only increased 20% or 25%, I don't think that it does something so earth-shattering. But if we see high quality apps that actually perform 50% faster because the integration between the tool set and the CPU is so tightly coupled that they can actually unlock more than 50% of performance increase. Doubtful, but not impossible. Then it will see. Then we'll see how good it was is going to be. Another example that I can give an example. If you're into video games, you know that consoles like the PlayStation 4 are way weaker than a current computer. So, for example, the PlayStation 4 has 8 cores, but has something called Jaguar cores, Jaguar, like the cat cores. They are super slow. They basically is having like a 8-core Intel Atom processor, the one from the netbooks. So the PlayStation 4 is super weak, but you see people actually optimizing games like Gran Turismo or Spider-Man. They look super amazing because it's for the developer, the same developer that build the hardware, builds the tools. That so allows you to make a great looking games in a super weak machine. So imagine if you actually, the developers from the hardware and the tools are the same, but in a desktop application where the computer is super powerful. Imagine the graphical capabilities or the performance capabilities that the new Macs will be able to bring to the developers. It will be amazing, but trust me, it's not about the iOS apps. It's about how powerful the new Mac apps will be able to become once the people get used to this new coding to new CPUs.
Cool. Awesome, thank you.
Yeah, no, thank you for asking. That was tough. So I actually need to improvise, but yeah, it was quite nice to think about this future. Another one? Or we can wrap it up for today. Perfect. So thank you so much for hearing for this one. Maybe by Friday will be the last one, the Firebase one, because that one needs time for prepare. So I will not make it. I will not be able to make it tomorrow because the deadline is not Friday anymore. There is no pressure with people being worried about the submission. So yeah, I think that the Firebase will become a lecture from Friday. So thank you so much for hearing this one, and I will upload it as soon as possible. See you tomorrow.
Many thanks, Eduardo.
Bye.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Bye.
See ya.
See ya.